Hello everyone, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Trinity Stamps video. Today we're going to be making 3 different cards and we're going to be focusing on this Multi-Porpoise stamp set. It's so cute. I love that it's called Multi-Porpoise. We also have our matching dies to go along with it, including dies for all of the sentiments. We're going to be using our Shimmer School foil. This is a hot foiler. And then we have our Clean Cut Layers Circle B, Set B. We also have some glossy blue cardstock, and then we have the mini Slimline flat acetate shaker pouches, because yes, we are going to make a shaker. All right, so let's get started. We're going to be foiling 3 different panels, and so I've got my Moon Dust foil. This stuff is so pretty, and I'm going to trim down 3 panels. So I've got 3 panels. One of them is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. The other one is 4 inches by 5 1/4, and then the other one is mini Slimline size. So all those are from that glossy blue cardstock. I'm going to trim down all of my foil while I have out my Spellbinders quick trimmer. This for me is the easiest way I have found to cut the foil. I just don't have luck with scissors. I don't know why, it just tears it up. So the only scissors that I have had okay luck with are those really big Tim Holtz ones, but otherwise this is just the easiest way for me to do it. So I'm going to trim all those down so that I have foil sheets for those 2 big panels, and then I need that smaller one for our mini Slimline. And then I'll put all that away. And then while that's doing that, I've got my plate heating up, and I'm going to go ahead and make my sandwich, which would include my plate that is going to go onto the pretty side of our foil, and then our foil will be lined up on top of the glossy cardstock, and then I'll flip that all over and stick that down on top of my Glimmer hot foil system. I'll hit my timer, let that do its thing, and then get all the rest of my pieces ready to go. I'm going to use this smaller little school of fish for our mini Slimline, but the big school is going to be for the 2 bigger panels. I just love this for a background, and I love that moon dust on top of that glimmer or that glossy blue cardstock. It's so gorgeous. I mean, there's also lots of other options. I think an orange would be pretty on there. The gold is gorgeous. The bronze is beautiful. I mean, you've got a lot of options for that. All right, so now that that's ready, we'll run that through our die cutting machine that matches the system. And then, I don't know why I didn't do the big reveal for you, but that's what it looks like. So we'll do the same sandwich for our other piece. We'll put our foil pretty side on top of our school of fish, and then put the glossy cardstock down on top of that. While that's heating up, I'm going to go ahead and get this other one ready to go. I'm using some mint tape to make sure that stays down. We can peel that off. And then we have our 3 panels all ready to go. Now I'll get our bases ready. And so our card bases for 2 of these are going to be 5 1/2 inches by 8 1/2 inches, scored at 4 1/4 inches. This one's trimmed down, so we've got a nice little white border there on the right-hand side. And I'm going to go ahead and get our panels attached. If you do have any overfoiling, I will say on that glossy cardstock, just an eraser works great. Bringing in my Crafty Gluefriend to attach down my panel to my base. So one base will be ready. Then our second base is actually going to be really cool. I'm using some acetate. This is a heat-resistant, heavy-duty acetate, and this one's from Graphics. It's Duralar. And then I've just trimmed this piece down to be 4 1/4 inches by 6 inches. So it's going to be a 1/4 of an inch bigger. And so then I am going to go ahead and score that at 5 1/2 inches. Now, I should have probably scored it at maybe a little more than 5 1/2 inches. And to score it, I actually found the best way to do this is to use like a stylus. And so I'm finding my stylus right now, and then I'm just going to do it right along that line. And then to make it stay, the Teflon tool is the way to do it. That is not going anywhere. That is folded over nice and perfectly. All right, so I did that so I would have a flap that would go over the top of my card panel. And then I'm going to use some rip and stick tape at the very top of my glossy cardstock on the back. And then I'll peel that off. I'm going to use my pickup stick to do that. Just makes it a little easier to get the release paper. Stick that right inside that acetate sheet and push that down. Now, I don't like the seam being there. So I'm going to cover that, but before I do that, I am going to trim off just a hair of that glossy blue cardstock that is sticking past the acetate. And then I have a piece of white cardstock that measures 4¼ by 5½ inches. And like I said, just because I don't want that seam and I want to make sure that that is sandwiched in there really well so that it doesn't come off. It's not going to, but just to make sure, I'm going to use some of my Crafty Gluefriend on that. And then we'll just attach all of this down to that white card base. It's just a white card panel, 4¼ by 5½ inches. And so that keeps everything nice and sandwiched. That's not going anywhere. And then there's your card. Now I did die cut out some circles using our our Clean Cut Layers B. And so I've got 3 of those. I'm going to go ahead and use some rip and stick tape on this first one. And I'm going to just attach that all the way on the back, and I'll peel off all the release paper and attach that one to the front. And now there's 3 of them. You'll see why. There's a reason. There's a method to the madness here. That glossy blue cardstock is not super easy to write on. So I need a panel behind so that I can write to the recipient. I suppose you could always write on the back, but I wanted to have a little something on the inside so that you could just write just a little message. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my Crafty Gluefriend, put that on the back of that. Now I'll flip my whole card over, attach the circle with the glue side up, and then just close the card like so. And that's going to attach that circle to go right behind our circle on the front. And then that final circle, just because I don't want to see the glue, the rip and stick glue, I'm going to stick that on top of the circle that's in there and close up my card. And that will cover the glue on the back. You don't have to do any of that. I just wanted this to be nice and clean so that you don't see any of that. But check it out. There's that card base. So fun, all ready for some little critters or something. And then for our final one, this is going to be the mini Slimline shaker pouch. I did cut that white panel way too big. I almost didn't even need it, basically. But I'm gluing that down to the front of that. We're going to move those off to the side because I have to do my stamping and coloring next. So that's where our little multi-porpoise stamp set comes in. I've got some sentiments. One of these is just going to be a hello card. One is going to be a birthday card, and one is going to be a Christmas card. So I'll ink all of those little porpoises up. This is just a few of them. I have a bunch more stamped and colored. And then we'll stamp that using some Blackout ink onto some Express It cardstock because I do want to do some alcohol marker coloring. And this is super simple coloring just because I want all those porpoises to be the same color. We've got some blue violet. And so the little belly was like blue violet 2.0. This is blue violet 2.2. And we'll do that for all of their little bodies. And then I am going to bring in one darker color. And it's funny how when you put that darker color down on top of what you've just put, if it's a contrast or a pretty decent contrast, it looks rough. So when I bring in that BV 2.3, it looks rough putting that down on top of there. And I always think that. And I've colored for years. But once you start blending it out, then it definitely looks so much better. But before that, you're just like, what have I done? It's a whole process. Just, enjoy it and work through it. All right, so we'll do that with all of our little porpoises. Add the darker shade, blend that out with the 2.2. And we have a bunch of porpoises that I've already colored. And I want to say roughly 3 per card. One of them has a total of 4. And then our sentiments, we only needed the 3 because we have 3 cards. But aren't those so cute? All right, so I'll pull out their matching dies, tack those down with a little bit of mint tape, and run that through my die cutting machine until I have all of these little porpoises that you see. Yes, there are Santa hats, and yes, there are birthday hats. That's what makes this set so cool, is that, like I said, you have a multi-porpoise stamp set. So now I'll just play around with which ones I want where, and then we'll glue each of those down. You could use foam squares or foam tape if you wanted to, but I just decided to use my Crafty Gluefriend to attach them all down. And yes, some of these little porpoises' tails are going to stick off the side of that circle. That doesn't bother me so much as the circle having, if it was just open. But that also gives you another area if you need to write something to on the inside of the card. Then we'll put their little Santa hats on top of these ones because this one is obviously our Christmas card. And then this one's going to be our birthday card, so we'll attach down all of those little guys just right on top of that glossy blue cardstock. I'm telling you that, as you can see, and actually it doesn't do it justice. Those glossy cardstocks that Trinity Stamps carries are so gorgeous with the foiling on top of them. I mean, you could obviously do lots of other things with them, just, use them for backgrounds to have a glossy background. But my goodness, there's red, blue, and black, and I love all of them. Okay, so all of our cards, these two, the acetate front and this birthday card, are completely done, minus needing to put one of the little porpoises on the inside. That'll finish him off just to do that, and I'll save the last porpoise for our mini Slimline shaker. But those two cards are done. And so now we can do our mini Slimline shaker. So I'll pull out one of the shaker pouches. This is so cool to make them flat. And this is where I realized, well, not right now, because I put my rip and stick on all 4 sides. After I get that on there, and I'm going to put it inside the shaker pouch, I realized that my panel is just too big. So I've got to trim that down, and I'll use my guillotine trimmer to do it. But with these pouches, they do have a film, just a protective film on them. Peel that off before you attach anything. Like I said, realized it was too big. So I trim it down, and then I'll peel off what I have left on there of that rip and stick. And I'm only going to peel off 3 sides, and then I will fold over those 3 sides. Now, it might feel a little stiff. This is, again, where that Teflon folder comes in super, super handy, just to kind of push that down to make sure that that's not going anywhere. My card base measures 6 by 6 inches. Then it's scored at 3 inches, but here we are just using that Teflon bone folder to make sure that that is attached down to our rip and stick tape. And then I have decided on some Pearly Pastels, and these are flat back shakers, and they just look gorgeous in there. Adds that little bit of color. Peel off that last of the release paper, fold over the last edge, use our bone folder, and then we have our mini Slimline shaker pouch all ready to go and ready to be attached to the front of our card base. I'm going to use rip and stick just on the long edges, and then I do decide to use some liquid glue for the rest of it, but I'll use that Teflon bone folder again. It just makes sure that everything is going to stay where it's supposed to stay. It just reinforces all of that. So Crafty Gluefriend, that'll give us a little wiggle room as well. And then I can attach that down to our card base. I'm even going to open up that card base and use that Teflon bone folder again just to make sure everything is staying. And then we'll attach down our last little porpoise to the inside of that card. And then we have all 3 of our cards all done. I'm so in love with how these turned out. They're so much fun. And there I've made 3 totally different cards. Well, not totally different, but totally different meaning for each of those cards. And that acetate one, I'm definitely going to have to make a bunch more of those. All right, so if you liked this video, please be sure to hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And definitely be sure to check out all that Trinity Stamps has going on over on their blog, Facebook page, and Instagram. For more crafty inspiration, there is always so much going on. Thanks for stopping by, and we will see you soon.